It's time to answer your questions. I've broken down my latest list of questions into 3 videos. I answered some of your questions in a video last week, and I'll answer more next week. But today I'm talking about gear. Plus I threw one offbeat question in at the end. Let's get to it. My first question today is from Roger. I am currently shooting with a Nikon D3200 with the 18 to 55 millimeter VR variable aperture, 55 to 300 millimeter VR variable aperture, and 35 millimeter f1.8. I am going to be shooting sports for my college club sports and was wondering if what I have should be sufficient, or should I pick up a second body? I was thinking of the D300S used for its fast continuous shooting to help capture moments that I may miss with a slower frames per second, or maybe a newer body for its low light capabilities in different shooting situations, but it only has 5 frames per second continuous. Or would a faster lens be better? Thinking of a 70 to 200 f2.8. Thanks. This is a great question and one that I get often. If you are in a well-lit situation, like outside on a sunny day, your gear will probably be great. However, as you lose light, because it's getting later in the day or because you're inside, you may find that you have trouble getting acceptable shutter speeds because of your limitation on aperture, even if you increase your ISO sensitivity. Your 35 millimeter f1.8 lens is great in those situations, but you're losing your ability to zoom in on the action. Now, the 70 to 200 is incredible. It's expensive, it's big, but it's also fantastic for lower light action shots. It's an investment that's worth it. Now, for the question of a second body, I always bring backup equipment if I'm shooting in a professional capacity. If my name is on it, I want to be sure to bring my A game. For me, I prefer to have a backup body that has the same control scheme as my main body. That way, if disaster strikes and I need to use the backup, I don't have to think even for a second about switching over to a different control scheme, which will allow me to get back into the action just that much faster. The D300S, it's a great body. I love mine, but it isn't the same control scheme as the D3200 that you already have. Nevertheless, the two would be a fine combination, and the D300S, being an older body, can be had for cheap, despite the fact that it's the fastest, most capable and durable DX body ever made. And I said that the D3200 and the D300S have different ergonomics, but really the most significant difference between the two is the autofocus tracking and speed. The D300S focuses faster and more reliably than any other DX body. Some may disagree with me on that, but I've said it and I mean it. The overall responsiveness, speed, grace, and style of the D300S has never been duplicated in a DX body, and frankly, it exists in very few FX bodies. For sports, action, the D300S is going to be working with you and not against you every time. Before you purchase anything though, I suggest testing out what you have in a similar situation to what you expect to be in at the college. You may find that your lens collection, it fits the bill just fine. Or if you end up in a smaller gym, you may find that something like the 70 to 200 would be too much zoom for you. And you may need something with less telephoto, like the 24 to 70 f2.8, or maybe even a 50 millimeter prime. Or you may find that your D3200 is plenty quick on the draw and you just want to get a second one of those as backup. And also remember that renting is always an option, especially if you're talking about a large purchase like the 70 to 200 or a new body. Trying out the gear in the real world can really help you make your decision. On to a Canon question from Renee. I have a Canon 70D 18 to 270 millimeter Tamron lens and a neutral density gray filter. Problem is, sometimes I have this dark area on my picture when I used it, and the minimum and maximum lines on my gray filter don't match with the darkness I see through my viewfinder. I also have got the message that my lens is not corresponding correctly with my body because of the gray filter. Am I using it wrong? Can you make a how-to using gray filter clip and explain it? Or just explain to me how I should use it. Thanks. And then a little smiley face. Renee, without seeing your setup and an example, I can't really be sure what's going on, so send me over an example and I'll definitely take a look for you. Ishtiak says, can I get your opinion regarding Sigma 17 to 50 millimeter f2.8 versus Nikkor 18 to 140 millimeter f3.5 to 5.6? I want the Sigma one, but not sure about the quality in low light and sharpness. I can't afford the Nikkor f2.8 one. I am using the 18 to 140 millimeter. It's pretty sharp, but not good at low light. So is it worth to upgrade to Sigma? Online price is just over $400, which is $1,000 less than the Nikkor 17 to 55 f2.8. Thanks. Okay. I've not used the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8, but I did get a chance to use the Tamron 17 to 50 f2.8. I reviewed it at the link above. Basically, my assessment is that both lenses will enable you to take great quality images, but the Nikon version, the 17 to 55 f2.8, has the benefit of being built like a tank and the long-lasting durability that goes along with it. If you don't need the utmost in durability, the third-party lens will do you just fine. One other thing to think about though, as new camera bodies are introduced, you don't have a guarantee that the third-party lens will be compatible with them. You can watch my review on the Tamron 17 to 50 for more of my thoughts on durability and compatibility. Now moving on to the idea of having an f2.8 lens, no matter the brand. I have some homework for you. Put your Nikon 18 to 140 on your camera, zoom all the way out to 18 millimeters, and set the aperture on the widest available, f3.5. Doing that will ensure that as you zoom in, your camera will use the widest possible aperture. Then zoom in to 50 millimeters and see what aperture you're at. I'm guessing that it's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of f4 or f4.5. Now the difference between f2.8 on the Sigma and f4 or a 4.5 on the Nikon you have, is that worth purchasing a new lens? For you, maybe it is. Philip has an interesting question. If you had a TARDIS, where would you go and shoot? A TARDIS. Well, I spend a lot of time in the desert and in the mountains, so right now I'm thinking I would go somewhere tropical, but really, if I had a TARDIS, I would be all over space and time. There's no way I could pick one space and one time. And that's it for today. Thanks guys for your questions. In my next Q&A video, I will answer the rest of your questions. Keep an eye on my Facebook page for it.